I don't care what that folder says, this is restricted parking. Move your vehicle right now or it will be towed at your expense.
At 6:12 a.m. on May 3, 2024, I opened my front door for coffee and almost walked into a wall of orange fencing. Cold air hit my face. A work truck sat sideways across the mouth of our Cul De Sac, hazard lights blinking like a warning. Fresh asphalt smell mixed with burnt diesel. And right in front of my driveway was a shiny new sign screwed into a post, guest parking only. I blinked hard, like maybe I was still asleep. But no. My car was boxed in. My trash cans were trapped behind plastic mesh. The fence even scraped my mailbox. I stood there with my mug shaking, watching a guy zip tie the last corner shut like he was closing a cage. I marched over in slippers, still in my hoodie, and asked who told them to do this. The guy just shrugged and pointed at a woman in a blazer, standing with a clipboard like she owned oxygen. That was Denise, our HOA board president, the kind of neighbor who smiles while stabbing you with rules. She didn't say good morning. She said, "This area is now designated guest parking. Residents will need to comply." Then she handed me a printed notice like it was a parking ticket from heaven. I read the top line twice because it felt unreal. HOA fenced off my Cul De Sac driveway as guest parking only, then I pulled the deed. That was the whole fight, right there. My driveway was suddenly public to her, and my life was suddenly a joke. I tried being normal first. I breathed. I told her I leave for work at 7:15 a.m. and my kids' school drop-off starts at 7:45 a.m. I asked how I was supposed to get out. Denise tapped her clipboard and said, "You can park on the street like everyone else. We're improving the neighborhood." I pointed at the fence and said, "That is my driveway." She did that little laugh people do when they're already sure they're right. Then she leaned in and said, "The HOA controls common areas. This is a common area." I looked around for backup, but the neighbors were peeking through blinds like scared little prairie dogs. One guy actually stepped out, saw Denise, and went right back inside. I emailed the board, called the management company, and even left a polite voicemail. No one answered. At 9:00 p.m. that night, I got a short email back, "Please direct all concerns to the next board meeting." So I drew my line in the sand. No yelling. No damage. No weird midnight stuff. Just proper channels, paper trails, and patience. I started a folder on my kitchen table and it turned into a war station. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. I printed the notice. I printed the map Denise taped to the fence like it was gospel. Then I did something Denise didn't expect. I went to the county site and pulled property records. The next morning, I filed a public records request for the HOA plat maps and easements. 2 days later, the file landed with 63 pages, stapled and heavy like a brick of truth. Right there in black and white was the lot line. My driveway wasn't common area. It was part of my deeded property, with a clear boundary line and a recorded survey from when the homes were built. I started building my case like a calm, petty librarian. I made a timeline in plain words so nobody could wiggle out of it. Timeline item 1 April 5 at 4:27 a.m. false trespass call, because yes, someone had called the police on me a month earlier for walking in a restricted area while I carried groceries to my own garage. Timeline item 2 May 3 at 6:12 a.m. fence installed, driveway blocked. Timeline item 3 May 3 at 7:20 a.m. missed work, because I had to beg a contractor to cut a zip tie so I could squeeze my car out. I also wrote one simple law line at the bottom: patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. I wasn't threatening anybody. I was reminding them that paperwork works both ways. Then I booked a licensed surveyor, paid $450, and asked him to stake the line on a Saturday when everyone would be outside. The board meeting was on May 14, 2024, and Denise walked in like a queen to her throne. She started with her usual speech about community standards and protecting property values. Then she pointed at me and said I was creating conflict. I stood up, set my binder on the table, and slid copies down the row like I was dealing cards. I didn't raise my voice. I just said, "You fenced my deeded driveway and labeled it guest parking. That's not a rule. That's trespass. Denise smirked and said, "Show me." So I did. I held up the recorded plat map and the surveyor's report with the county stamp. I flipped to the page that showed my lot line running straight through the exact spot where her fence sat. Then I turned my phone around and played a video of the surveyor hammering stakes and spraying bright paint. The room went quiet, then a few people started whispering. Someone in the back snorted a laugh when Denise's face went from smug to pale. That's when the real fun started, because neighbors love a safe scandal. 2 people were filming before I even sat down. Within an hour, the clip was on the neighborhood group chat, then on Nextdoor, with comments like she fenced his driveway? And Denise is out of control. One guy wrote, "I got 3 warning letters for leaving my trash can out for 10 minutes, but she can build a fence on someone's property?" Another neighbor posted screenshots of her emails, and suddenly it wasn't just my issue. It was a pattern. The management company finally called me back, nervous and sweet, saying they were looking into it. I told them I already did. I also filed a complaint with code enforcement for blocking a residential driveway and an obstruction in the right-of-way. On May 16 at 2:40 p.m., an inspector came out, took pictures, and asked who installed it. I said, "The HOA," and I handed him my binder. The next day, a police officer knocked on my door, not to accuse me, but to ask if I wanted a report number for the obstruction. Denise had tried one more trick and called to say I was harassing her contractors. The officer looked at my photos, the survey, and the county pages and said, "Ma'am, this appears to be your private property." He walked outside, stared at the fence, and actually sighed like he was tired of grown adults playing pretend. He told Denise on speakerphone that she needed to remove the obstruction or face a citation. Her voice got small fast. By 5:30 p.m., the fence crew was back, cutting their own zip ties like they were undoing a bad haircut. Denise didn't come outside. She watched from behind her curtains. 2 weeks later, the board sent a letter saying the HOA would reimburse my survey cost and regretted any inconvenience. Denise was removed as president at the next meeting, and she resigned for personal reasons right after. Now my driveway is open, my kid's bike chalk is back on the pavement, and the Cul De Sac feels like a neighborhood again instead of a tiny kingdom. The best part is the silence. No surprise notices. No mystery calls. Just normal sounds, sprinklers ticking, someone grilling, a dog barking like it has a job. A few neighbors even brought me cookies, like I'd survived a storm. I didn't want a war. I just wanted my own property respected. And I learned something simple: bullies love rules until you show them the real ones. Please follow for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.